The day my teacher punished me for skipping class was the same day I earned just enough money to buy one more vial of my mother's medicine. Nobody knew, nobody asked. They only saw the boy who never showed up on time. I rushed through the school gate with my shirt sticking to my back. My chest was still tight from singing for 3 straight hours at the park. Coins rattled inside the pocket of my trousers. Barely enough for transport, definitely not enough for tomorrow's drugs. I slipped into the corridor hoping to blend into the morning noise. But Cynthia Bassey's voice landed on me like a hammer. "Tunde Adebayo," she said, arms crossed. Again. Her eyes scanned me the way people inspect a stain on white cloth. I didn't reply. I had no breath left for argument. She pointed toward the staff room. "Move." I followed, keeping my head low, counting steps the way I count coins. Inside, teachers were marking scripts, gossiping, shuffling paper. Cynthia cleared her throat dramatically. "Sir, he is late again," she announced to Mr. Okun, the man whose frown alone could knock sense into a room. He looked up slowly. "Tunde," I forced myself to meet his eyes. "Why are you late again?" I had answers, real ones, painful ones, but answering meant explaining. Explaining meant lying, and lying meant sleeping. So I kept quiet. His silence stretched sharp. Then he pointed at the door. "Outside, kneel." Cynthia smirked like justice had just been served. She walked away with her prefect's badge shining even though nobody asked it to shine.
I knelt in the hallway, watching other students rush to class. My knees ached, but my mind was elsewhere, on the pharmacy slip in my pocket, on the nurse who had warned me yesterday, if you skip the next vial, her strength will drop again. I swallowed hard. When break time came, Mr. Okon called me back inside. He didn't raise his voice. His disappointment was louder. "You are wasting your future. If you are tired of school, tell us." "I'm not tired, sir," I said quietly. "Then behave like someone who wants to be here." He slid an exercise book toward me. "Copy notes from page 1 to 50. Submit before closing." 50 pages. My fingers trembled, not from fear, fatigue. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours, but I nodded. Because when your mother is fighting cancer, you don't complain about copying notes. I finished the punishment late, almost the last student still in class. When I got home, my mother was sitting on the bed, holding her chest. "Welcome," she whispered, smiling a smile she didn't have strength for. "You look tired." "I am fine," I lied. "I always did." She reached for my hand. Her skin felt colder. "You didn't eat well again. Please don't fail school because of me." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I won't fail, Mommy." But the truth was, I was barely showing up. I prepared her food, helped her take her evening drugs, then stepped outside to rehearse quietly. My voice cracked on the second verse. I shook my head and tried again. It cracked again. I wanted to scream. Tomorrow meant more singing, more strain, more missing classes. But chemo didn't pause because I was tired. The next morning, I left home early, too early, the sky still dark. My mother asleep. I kissed her forehead lightly and whispered, "Please stay." At the park, I started singing before the traders fully opened their stalls. My voice was rough. People looked at me with pity, some with annoyance, some with kindness. Coins dropped. A few notes, mostly coins. Around noon, a man waved at me. "You dey sing fine, but your voice dey shake. You sick." I shook my head and kept singing. By the time I was done, my throat burned like pepper. But I had enough money for the next dose. I should have gone back to school. I didn't. I was too drained, and the pharmacy queue was long, and life didn't care about school bells. The following day, When I finally returned to class, the air changed. Cynthia stood by the board, arms folded, lips sharp. "Well done," she said loudly. "Another disappearing act." Students laughed. I forced my way to my seat. Before the first period even started, Mr. Okon walked in. "Tunde, outside." Again. I followed silently. He looked at me with exhausted eyes. "Why weren't you in school yesterday?" "I had things to do, sir." "Things more important than your exams?" I didn't answer. He took my silence as defiance. "Good. 1 week punishment, sweeping the entire block after school." My chest tightened. Cynthia clapped her hands once, amused. "Fair." I ignored her. I swept after school while other students went home laughing. The corridor was long, my body was weak, my throat still ached from yesterday's singing. But I swept anyway. Then something happened that sealed my reputation completely. As I was leaving the school compound, Prefect Chima came running out, yelling, "Our class money is missing. Our welfare envelope is empty." Before I could breathe, Cynthia turned to me with the speed of lightning. "Tunde was the last person in class. He should explain." A small crowd gathered. Whispers rose, eyes narrowed. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Explaining meant talking about why I stayed late, which meant more lies. Mr. Okon joined the circle, his face already set in disappointment. "Tunde, do you know anything about the missing money?" I shook my head, but my voice didn't come out. Silence again. Deadly silence. It incriminated me instantly. "We will investigate," Mr. Okon said tightly. "For now, you are suspended for 2 days." My heart sank. Cynthia turned away like the matter was too small for her attention. And just like that, the boy who skipped class became the boy who stole money.
That evening, when I got home, my mother asked why I came back early. I needed rest, I said. She touched my cheek gently. "Don't stress yourself too much." I forced a smile. But when she slept, I stepped outside, leaned on the wall and cried quietly into my hands. Not because of the suspension, but because tomorrow morning I still had to go sing, with a cracked voice, to buy medicine for the mother who apologized for. The next morning, I woke up to my mother coughing, deep, painful coughs that sounded like her lungs were tearing. I rushed to her side, rubbing her back gently. "I'm okay," she whispered, even though she clearly wasn't. Her breathing was uneven, her skin felt too warm. I checked the small bag where we kept her medicine. 1 vial left. 1. The doctor's words echoed in my head from last week. Missing doses will weaken her immune system drastically. I swallowed the fear climbing my throat. "Mommy, let's go for checkup today." She shook her head. "You should be in school." "I'm suspended." She frowned. "Again?" "I'll explain later. Let's go." At the clinic, the nurse ran basic checks. Her expression tightened. "You need to continue her chemo immediately. Her blood count is dropping again." I nodded. Inside, I was sinking. Because chemo wasn't just expensive, it was impossible with the money I had. After leaving the clinic, I walked my mother home, then hurried out again before she could ask questions. I needed to sing. At the motor park, my voice cracked before I even finished the first verse. It cracked again on the second. People turned to stare. Your voice don't spoil today, oh," someone shouted. I ignored him. I kept singing. My throat burned. Tears stung my eyes. Not emotional tears, physical pain. I tasted iron. My voice was giving up. A woman placed a small note in my container. "Don't force it, Bobo. You sound tired, though." I whispered, "Thank you," but the sound barely came out. I pushed myself for 2 more hours, because medicine doesn't wait. By the time I stopped, my voice was nothing but air, painful air. I bought what I could from the pharmacy, then walked quietly home, swallowing pain with every breath. The next day was the final day of my suspension. I should have rested, but my mother's fever had climbed higher. She sat in bed, sweating, trying to smile at me. "I'll be fine. Please don't worry." How could I not? I placed the new vial beside her. She counted them slowly, then looked up at me. "You bought this yesterday?" "Yes." "From what money?" I managed. She held my hand gently. "Please don't do anything dangerous." I nodded, but my chest tightened. When I returned to school the following day, the atmosphere wrapped around me like cold wind. Eyes followed me. Whispers trailed me. Thief, troublemaker, suspended boy. Even students who used to joke with me kept their distance. Cynthia walked past me with her friends and said loudly, "Hide your bags, oh. You know some people can't keep their hands to themselves." Laughter. I pretended it didn't hurt. Inside, it carved deep. During first period, while others were writing, I stared at my empty notebook. My mind couldn't settle. My body couldn't sit still. I checked my phone twice for missed calls from home, even though my mother rarely texted. Mr. Kong walked in later and scanned the class like he was counting troublemakers. His eyes landed on me. "Tunde, see me after this period." A few students giggled. Cynthia smirked like she owned the air. After class, I stood in front of Mr. Kong's desk. "Explain why you've missed so many classes this week," he demanded. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because if I told him the truth, I'd have to tell him everything. If I lied, he would see through it. So I stayed quiet. His jaw tightened. "You enjoy stress, don't you? You love punishment." "I don't, sir." "Then stop behaving like someone whose future is optional." He dismissed me with a wave. Cynthia stood outside the staff room, arms folded. "Congratulations, you are famous. Whole school is talking about you." I walked past her. "Don't ignore me," she snapped. "You are making all of us look bad." "How?" "You are dragging our class reputation into the mud." I forced myself not to shout. "Cynthia, please." "Please what? Behave? Then behave." Her voice cracked with anger, but I kept walking. She shouted after me, "If you miss school again, I will personally report you to the principal." The words chased me all the way to the gate. And the painful part, I knew I would miss again. Not because I wanted to, because survival doesn't follow school timetables.
The next day, before dawn, my mother lost her balance while trying to stand. She collapsed on the floor beside the bed. "Mommy!" I caught her before she hit her head. Her breath came in small, sharp gasps. We couldn't afford an ambulance. I practically carried her to a tricycle myself. At the clinic, the doctor pulled me aside. "She needs more consistent treatment," he said. "Her body is under pressure." I nodded, even though my legs were shaking. "How much will it cost?" I asked. He told me the amount. My heart sank so fast I felt dizzy. I left the clinic and went straight to the park again. This time, when I sang, nothing came out. Just air. Painful air. A man shook his head. "Young boy, rest oh, your voice don't break." I couldn't rest. I pushed my voice until it scraped and tore. I pushed until I felt blood rise in my throat. I swallowed it. By afternoon, I barely scraped enough for half the cost. I went home shaking. The next week at school, the tension doubled. I came in late again. Cynthia didn't even wait for me to sit. "Stand up," she commanded from the front of the class. "You think we are playing? Why are you late again?" "I had things to do," I whispered. "I am not your mother. Explain." My chest tightened. "I can't." "Then stand, all day." Mr. Okon walked in shortly after. He looked at me, then at Cynthia, then at the class. "Tunde, outside." As I walked out, Cynthia muttered about time. In the corridor, Mr. Okon folded his arms. "You have decided to destroy yourself. This is no longer about punishment. It's about your life." I stared at the ground, fingers trembling. He continued, "If you keep living like this, you will fail. You may even drop out, and I will not watch you waste your future." My truth burned. I wanted to tell him everything. But every time I imagined telling the truth, I saw my mother's face, her weakened eyes, her shame at being the reason I suffer. So I kept quiet. Mr. Akon shook his head. "I will call your mother tomorrow." My heart stopped. "No," I shouted. He blinked, startled. "Excuse me?" I swallowed hard, panic climbing up like fire. "No, I mean she's busy." "Busy with what?" He pressed. My mind scrambled, searching for a lie, any lie. Nothing came. "Fine," he said. "If she's busy, she can call me before closing hours." He walked away. I stood frozen.
Because I knew she couldn't call. She was too sick. And even if she could, she would never let him know what I was doing. I walked home faster that day, chest tight, breath uneven. When I reached the door, I found my mother sitting in the dark, holding her head. "Mommy!" She looked up, eyes heavy. "Tunde, I'm tired." I knelt beside her. "Please don't say that. I don't want my sickness to ruin your life." "It hasn't." She touched my cheek. "Then why do you look like someone carrying the whole world?" I swallowed hard. For the first time, I felt myself breaking. That night, I stepped outside, leaned against the wall, and let tears fall silently. My voice hurt too much to even cry properly. Everything was coming at me at once. School, punishment, shame, sickness, survival. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow, I will find a way. But tomorrow arrived with something I didn't expect. Something that would change everything. A line. A moment. A single witness. A truth that refused to stay hidden. The next morning started quietly. Too quietly. My mother managed a small smile when I gave her breakfast, but her hands trembled as she lifted the spoon. I pretended not to notice. "Go to school. Please." I forced a nod. But I didn't go to school. I left the house with my bag, walked 3 streets down, and turned toward the motor park. I couldn't afford to lose another day of money. Not with her breath growing weaker. Not with the doctor's warning replaying in my head like a threat. When I reached the park, the sun hadn't fully risen. The air was cold, the kind that sits heavy on your chest. Traders dragged open their kiosks. Buses honked lazily. The world was just waking up. I started singing. My voice broke on the 3rd line, cracked on the 4th, completely failed on the 5th. People turned. A conductor shouted, "Oga, go drink hot water, I beg." Someone else laughed. A woman shook her head sympathetically. But I couldn't stop. I pushed out the notes even though they weren't notes anymore, just painful breaths shaped like songs. The desperation in my voice must have shown because pity money started dropping. Coins. Small notes. Just enough. I swallowed the pain tearing through my throat. Just 1 more hour, I told myself. Just 1 more. But my vision kept blurring. The ground felt uneven. I was dizzy from hunger and lack of sleep. I didn't notice anything else. Not the crowd. Not the stairs. Not the man standing across the park. Frozen. Watching me with eyes widening as if someone had just punched the air out of him. I didn't notice Mr. Okon.
He approached slowly, as though stepping into a story he didn't believe yet. I was crouched near my small container, counting the money the way someone counts their last hope. "Tunde," he said quietly. I jumped. My hands tightened around the crumpled notes. "Sir? Here?" I stood up too fast, and my knees nearly buckled. He stared at me, really stared, at my cracked lips, my swollen throat, my shaking hands, My uniform that hadn't seen a proper wash in a week. My eyes red from tears I didn't have time to shed. "You're supposed to be in school," he said, voice barely steady. I know." He looked at the container on the ground. "You're singing." I nodded. He swallowed hard. "Why?" I hesitated. The truth pushed at my truth, but before I could answer, a small pharmacy bag slipped from my pocket and fell to the ground. The slip inside slid out. He picked it up. His eyes ran over the paper. "Chemotherapy. Payment due. Urgent." His hand shook. "Tunde." His voice broke slightly. Who is this for?" I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Not because I didn't want to, because my voice was completely gone. I touched my chest, then pointed toward home. "For your mother," he whispered. I nodded. He closed his eyes as if the truth physically struck him. For a long moment he couldn't say anything. When he finally did, his voice was small. How long have you been doing this?" I looked away. Weeks, months, entire days of singing until my throat bled, then pretending I was fine. He placed a hand on his head and stepped back. "All those times, all the punishments, all the days you missed." He swallowed again. "I thought you were being stubborn." I didn't know what to say. He looked at me again, regret spilling from every line of his face. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" The answer came out like a whisper of air. I didn't want people to look at me the way they look at her. Sickness in Nigeria carries shame. Poverty carries shame. Being a child carrying poverty is the worst shame of all. Mr. Okon exhaled shakily. "You shouldn't be carrying this alone." But I was. And I would have kept carrying it. Another coughing fit hit me. He stepped closer immediately. "Stop talking. Stop singing. You're hurting yourself." My legs trembled. He grabbed my arm to steady me. "You're coming with me," he said, voice firm. No room for argument. He didn't drag me. He didn't yell. He just held my arm gently and walked me home.
When we reached the house, he paused at the doorway. My mother was sitting on the bed, breathing slowly, her scarf slipping off her head. She looked up with tired surprise. "Good afternoon, sir," she whispered. He removed his glasses, his voice breaking softly. "Ma, Tunde didn't tell us. If he had, we would have helped. He has been struggling alone." My mother's eyes widened. She looked at me in panic. "Tunde, why? Why didn't you tell your teachers?" I sat beside her. My voice refused to appear. I shook my head. She held my hand with guilt burning through her touch. "You should be reading, playing, living, not..." Her voice cracked. "Not fighting for my life." Mr. Akon stood there, silent, guilt swallowing him whole. After a long pause, he finally said, "I will fix this, I promise." I didn't believe promises anymore. But something in his voice sounded like a vow that wasn't offered lightly. He stepped outside, wiped his face quickly, then came back in. "We're not hiding this anymore, not from the school, not from the staff, not from anyone who can help." He looked at my mother, then at me. No child should ever break his voice just to keep his mother breathing. And in that small room, for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight shift slightly off my shoulders. Not enough to free me, but enough to breathe. Barely. Morning sunlight slid through the curtains of the small hospital room, striping Daniel's face. He had slept in the chair beside his mother's bed. She looked tired, but her breathing was steadier. He checked his phone. 50 notifications, messages, transfers, screen captures. Yesterday's video went viral. A soft knock came at the door. Mrs. Adebayo stepped in, holding 2 plastic bags. "Before you say anything,
I brought you food and something else. Ma, he stood, unsure how to face her after the previous day. But her face wasn't angry. It was softer than she'd ever seen. She handed him an envelope. Open it. He slid a finger under the flap. Inside was a printed receipt from a medical foundation, a donation made in his mother's name, enough to cover the remaining balance of treatment. He looked up sharply. You? She shook her head. Not me. She pressed her lips together, steadying her voice. Your video reached an organization I consult for. They had funds available. They wanted to help. His throat tightened. Ma, I don't know what to say. Say nothing. Just let your mother get better. Silence settled. Heavy. Healing. His mother stirred, eyes fluttering open. She saw them both and smiled faintly. Daniel, your teacher came to see you. I exhaled. Yes, Mom. She reached for my hand. Be kind. People only see what stands in front of them. Mrs. Adebayo swallowed visibly. I should leave you two, she whispered. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, I misjudged you. I reacted too quickly and too harshly. I'm sorry. I nodded once. It was enough. She left.
2 days later, Daniel walked through the school gates. Eyes followed him. Whispers trailed behind. That's the boy from the video. His mom is sick. Is it true he sings at night markets? He ignored all of it. His bag felt lighter today. When he stepped into the classroom, conversations died instantly. Then slowly, students began clapping.
Someone stood, then another. Soon the entire class was on their feet, not cheering, just clapping. A quiet, steady acknowledgement of everything he'd carried alone. Daniel's chest tightened, and then she entered. Mrs. Adebayo stopped when she saw them all standing. The clapping stopped. She looked at Daniel. Come with me, she said quietly. A ripple of whispers followed as he left the classroom behind her. Inside her office, there were no files stacked on the table, no disciplinary form waiting for him, just a single notebook and 2 chairs. Sit. He did.
Her posture rigid at first, then gradually easing. Daniel, she began, I need to address something directly. I punished you without understanding the full picture. That is my failure, not yours. He stayed silent. She continued, you are talented. That voice you have, it moved an entire city. It moved me. She inhaled deeply. You are not a stubborn child. You are a boy carrying an adult's burden. A pause. And no child should have to shoulder that alone. Her voice softened. I want to help. Not as your teacher, as someone who now understands. Daniel blinked hard. Ma, I didn't want anyone to know.
I just needed money. I didn't want pity. This isn't pity. This is support you earned through courage. He swallowed. What happens now? You focus on your studies and your music. The school will give you flexible hours until your mother stabilizes. He breathed out slowly. Relief washed over him. She opened the notebook on the table. Inside was a printed flyer. Next month is the Inter-School Arts Showcase, she said. I want you to represent us. You choose your song. I'll handle everything else.
Daniel stared at her. After everything, you still want me to perform? She nodded. Especially after everything. For the first time since this nightmare began, he allowed himself a small smile. Okay, he whispered. Good. She stood and extended her hand. Let's start over. He shook it. A new chapter opened in that handshake. A hall packed with parents, students, teachers. The stage lights glowed warm. Daniel stood behind the curtains, breathing carefully. His mother sat in the front row, wrapped in a soft shawl, thinner but stronger. Her eyes were bright with pride. Mrs. Adebayo stood backstage beside him. Nervous? He nodded. Good. It means you're alive. She smacked faintly. Go show them. He stepped onto the stage. Silence spread across the hall. The first note rose from his chest, clear, steady, full of everything he had endured. Pain, fear, hope, love, defiance. It filled the air like a prayer. People didn't just listen, they felt it. His voice trembled once, then grew stronger. He saw his mother's eyes glistening. He saw students leaning forward, teachers stunned, some wiping tears. When he finished, the entire hall stood. A standing ovation. He exhaled shakily, hand over his heart. He bowed. His mother was crying, smiling, alive. And in the wings, Mrs. Adebayo clapped the hardest.
Weeks passed. His mother's treatment continued steadily. Bills no longer crushed him. The market no longer needed to be his second life, though he still sang there sometimes, not out of desperation, but passion. People recognized him now. Daniel, the boy who sings with his soul. He didn't need fame. He didn't seek it. He just wanted his mother to live. And slowly, she did. One evening, as the sun melted into orange light, he walked her out of the hospital after another successful round of treatment. She leaned on his arm, breathing softly. "You saved me," she whispered. "No," he said, "we saved each other." They walked toward home, not healed, but healing, not whole, but surviving, not victorious, but alive. And in Daniel's pocket was a new goal written on a scrap of paper. "Someday, I'll make music the world will never forget." A promise to himself, a promise to his mother, a promise to the future he was finally allowed to dream of. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts in the comments. You never know, your words might be the reminder someone needs that even in the hardest moments, hope still finds a way to live. Please subscribe and tell us where you are watching from. See this story about a street girl who helps a wealthy man who got drunk because he saw his girlfriend cheating. You will love it. A comic yet interesting story of status, intellect, friendship, and what true love is. Pidgin English, but subtitles so everyone can enjoy. See you there.